In trying to figure out which jersey I wear for the final season of WHA, which doesn't mean this is the final video I'm going to do on the WHA. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in here that the season reviews don't really get into, right? Um, we're we're in the year of Gretzky. It's really what this is all about. So I threw on the 99 jersey. Not that he wore 99 during the entirety of this season, but I threw on the 99 jersey because yes, Winnipeg does end up emerging victorious in the final game ever in this league, but when you look at what was going to happen with the NHL, it's all about 99. And a trivia question that people have often is, why didn't Gretzky ever win the rookie trophy? Why didn't he ever win the Calder? He wasn't eligible. He wasn't eligible because he played pro hockey in the WHA first. And players that played in the WHA played enough games to not qualify for Rookie of the Year in the NHL didn't. So the Oilers end up being the best team in the regular season. 48-30-2, 98 points. Quebec, 41-34-5, 87 points. Winnipeg, 39-35-6, 84 points. And the New England Whalers, who would become the Hartford Whalers a year later, 37-34-9 for 83 points. What's interesting is those are your four best teams, and they're the four that the NHL says, we'll take them. We will bring them in, but we're going to treat them like expansion teams, which means it's not necessarily going to go all that well for the Avco Cup champions from that year. The Cincinnati Stingers, 33-41-6 in their final season, 72 points. Birmingham Bulls missed the playoffs altogether. 32-42-6, 70 points, and that's the end of the Birmingham Bulls as a pro hockey team. And that's a name that, of course, we've seen in pro leagues, but not at this level, right? And the Indianapolis Racers end up 5-18-2, 12 points, and they folded December 15th of 1978. And what's interesting is that's where Gretzky starts, is with Indianapolis. It doesn't help. Team's no good. The Soviet All-Stars play against the league again. They end up 4-1-1, 10 points. Team Czechoslovakia 1-4-1, 3 points. So again, the Iron Curtain comes down. The Soviets play, the Czechoslovakians play, and those games count in the standings. The interesting thing, of course, is the Soviets get almost as many points in 6 games as Indianapolis does in 25. So, good thing there wasn't a playoff spot on the line there. Things could have got awkward. Technically, the Soviet All-Stars made the playoffs. How do we do this? So, the quarterfinal is a best 2 out of 3 between teams 4 and 5 in the standings, and New England ends up winning that in 3 games over Cincinnati. So that's where Cincinnati's existence as a pro team in WHA ends. They don't go to the NHL. In the semifinals, Edmonton beats New England, who would become Hartford, in 7. Winnipeg sweeps Quebec. And then in the Avco Cup final, the Winnipeg Jets beat Edmonton in 6. But you can see this explosive offense that Edmonton's going to bring with them to the National Hockey League is at the 4. So Winnipeg wins 3-1 and 3-2 in games 1 and 2. Game 3, Edmonton wins 8-3. Game 4 is a 3-2 win for Winnipeg. Game 5, Edmonton wins 10-2. And then the final game is a 7-3 win for Winnipeg. So Winnipeg wins the Avco Cup. They are the final champs. They do have get-togethers of the guys who won that final Avco Cup, and they pose with it, and they got their jerseys and all that, and it's great. But again, when we look at the headlines from that year, it's Gretzky. October 3rd, 1978. Before we get into the year of Gretzky, Gordie Howe makes headlines. He plays his first game as a WHA player in the in the arena where he was best known, in Detroit. And I believe it's in the Olympia at that point. And he gets a 17-minute standing ovation playing in Detroit. So this is a preseason game against the Wings, and it is a heartfelt send-off that they give Gordie Howe. Now, they don't know that Gordie Howe's going to play a year with the Hartford Whalers after this season. So, for what they knew, that could be the final time they see him. October 16th, 1978, Gretzky records his first ever pro point. And that's, of course, with Indianapolis. October 20th, he gets his first goal. So he hits the ground running. Gretzky, no time needed to adjust to the World Hockey Association. He is just that good. November 2nd of 1978, Gretzky, Peter Driscoll, and Eddie Mio, goaltender you'll remember from the 80s if you're as old as I am, they are sold for $85,000 by Indianapolis's owner, Nelson Skalbania. Team is losing a lot of money, and we know now that a month and a half down the road, the team folds. And so Gretzky is sold to the Oilers. Peter Pocklington going, yeah, okay. And of course, Pocklington would sign Gretzky to a pretty lucrative contract in order to make sure that he's arguing to the NHL, hey, he's not in the expansion draft, and he's not eligible for the entry draft either. We know how young he is, but we got this huge contract, see, and you can't put him in the entry draft, because that was the concern. Teams are going to lose star players in an entry draft in 1979 who have played in this league. And so Gretzky, of course, would have been the number one draft pick, and the Oilers, a team that doesn't have the number one draft pick, not willing to lose him. So November 3rd of 1978, a day later, wearing the number 20, he scores his first goal as an Oiler. So again, you just call him 99, because that's what, did you see 99 last night? Yeah, great game. Just as recognizable a name for him as Gretzky itself. During that same month, Bobby Hull stuns the world and announces his retirement. And, Hull's getting older, so it's a matter of, yeah, I'll probably just go. And so Bobby Hull's career ends there. March 2nd of 1979, this is when the merger is announced. And so this is while the league is having, getting set for playoffs, and they're going to decide a champion. They know this is the last. They know this is the end of it. All of these teams know it's over. And then, of course, Birmingham and Cincinnati are not desirables to the NHL. And interestingly enough, the Oilers are still in Edmonton, right? The Nordiques, Colorado. The Winnipeg Jets, Arizona. And the New England Whalers ended up in Hartford. So when the moves were happening, and the Jets were getting moved, and when Gary Bettman was asked what the problem was, because these teams were all moved one after the other, he said the problem is 3 letters, WHA. So the NHL makes its peace and is taking on these 4 markets, but there's still some concern about whether or not this is all going to work out. But yeah, we'll bring your teams in, and while we're at it, we'll take some of your best players, because that's how the NHL works things. Keep in mind, there's still guys who are owners in the NHL at this time who are probably still pretty choked that this league drove up costs, took away their lifetime ownership over players, and lowered the draft age while they were at it. So there's reason to be upset if you're an NHL owner, and maybe dick these guys over as they're being brought into the league. On May 20th, the last WHA goal is scored in a 7-3 loss for the Oilers. The last goal is scored by Edmonton, and it's Dave Semenko from Ron Chipperfield and Risto Siltanen. And of course, Siltanen, not a pretty good NHL career, and Semenko, we all remember Semenko, right? Tough guy. And then in June, it's dissolved. The league is gone. The WHA ceases to exist. Now, in terms of notables, Dave Dryden, goaltender for the Edmonton Oilers, is named the MVP of the league. The Rookie of the Year is some guy named Wayne Gretzky. Defenseman is actually Rick Lee of the Whalers, is named the best defenseman in the league. And Rick Lee is one of those guys that if he'd played his entire career in the NHL, I think he'd be remembered a little more as a player than he has been. He was remembered more as a coach. Rich Preston is the playoff MVP. And of course, he goes on to have a decent career. Hall of Famers playing in this league at this point. Gretzky is the only Oiler who's a Hall of Famer. And it's because the other Hall of Famers you're thinking of right now for the Oilers, not with the team yet. Winnipeg, Bobby Hull, who retires partway through the season, of course. For New England, about to become Hartford, you've got Mark Howe, Gordie Howe, and Davey Keon. The Cincinnati Stingers have both Mike Gartner and Mark Messier, 2 of the best goal scorers in the history of the league. And interestingly enough, Mark Messier only has 1 goal that year. So the Oilers are able to draft him, and it's not even a first-round draft pick, probably because other GMs would look at that total for Messier and go, well, this Messier kid might be all right, but 1 goal. And that's in the WHA where everybody's scoring a bunch of goals, so doesn't really have the offensive kick, does he? And for Birmingham, Michel Goulet, who would end up with the Nordiques. They would draft him in 1979. So some of these players end up in the draft. Gretzky ends up being exempted from it because Pocklington was pretty smart about that. And then we get into the scoring leaders. Réal Cloutier, 75 goals, 54 assists, 129 points for the Nordiques. Robbie Ftorek, 39 goals, 77 assists, 116 points for Cincinnati. So he was in Phoenix. Phoenix didn't work out. He's in Cincinnati. Cincinnati didn't work out. He went to teams that folded. Wayne Gretzky, 46 goals, 64 assists, 110 points combined between Indianapolis and Edmonton. And he is the best player in the league. We know this. Mark Howe, who played both defense and the wing, 42 goals, 65 assists, 107 points for the Whalers. Mark Howe was one of those pioneering defensemen that could do both. And Phil Housley did that as well. More recently, Brent Burns has done both. It could be valuable to a defenseman to spend time on the wing as well. Kent Nilsson, playing for the Jets, 39 goals, 68 assists, 107 points. Morris Lukowicz for the Jets as well, who was one of my favorites when I was a kid. 65 goals, 34 assists, 99 points for the Jets. So some really good players, just the league wasn't making money. And the teams that the NHL thought maybe we can make a profit with these teams are the ones that are being brought in. Interestingly enough, it is also then strange that you're going to bring them in, declare them expansion teams, and then kind of kneecap the Jets on their way in. And if not for really smart scouting by the Oilers, they would have been hurt by it as well. Best goaltender, Dave Dryden, who won best goalie and MVP. 41, 17, and 2, 2.89 goals against for the Oilers. Richard Brodeur. Fans in Vancouver remember that name well. 25, 13, and 3, 3.11 goals against for Quebec. And here's a name. Jim Corsi. Yes, that Corsi. 16, 20, and 1, 3.30 goals against. And he is not known more as a goaltender than he is as a stats guy by today's standards. So yeah, I mean, there are some interesting names on the board. It was a league that did its best, and in the end, you have 6 teams, and the NHL says we'll take 4. We're not taking all 6. We'll take 4. And of course, there hasn't been any rumblings of a team in Cincinnati since then. Birmingham wasn't really on the map for the NHL at any point either. And we can debate whether or not that's kind of a shame. I think it would be fun to have a team in Cincinnati. I'm a Bengals fan, so spread the misery around. If there'd been a Cincinnati Stingers in the NHL in the 80s, I probably would have rooted for them. Kind of fun. And the jersey I have of theirs, the logo's not too bad. The jersey's kind of fun. The one thing is it's basically the same color as the Bruins and as the Penguins, so that might have caused some confusion. But yeah. I think I probably would have been a Cincinnati fan. But, alas, it wasn't to be. So there you go. That's the final year of the WHA. Congratulations to the Jets on the final Avco Cup win. And after this, it would actually be the Oilers that would break through and win the first Stanley Cup for a WHA team. The Jets still have not, either in Winnipeg or in Arizona, and the new Jets have not either. New England, the Whalers, they wouldn't win one as the Whalers of Hartford, but they won one in Carolina. And then, of course, the Nordiques, the year they moved to Denver, the Avalanche ended up winning a cup, and then they won one in 2001 as well. So, pretty decent franchises all around, and 3 of them ended up moving, and the other one, that's the Oilers. No danger of them moving now, is there? Great building, good ownership, stability. In the 90s, it got a little bit dicey at points, but they survived. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.